It's a new week in the Crew Motorfest, and this week's theme is called Aerial Circus, and this is my summit guide. Let's go! All right, real quick before we get into it, if you're looking for any of my tunes, go to militiagamingco.com, click on Motorfest tools from the top, and there you will find all of my pro settings. All right, let's get into it, man. The summit bundle this week is just a bunch of planes. We got the Granville Brothers Aircraft GBR-1, the Proto A500 helicopter, and the Waco Aircraft YMF 5D Super. Now, you're gonna need a couple of additional planes. I recommend the P-51 Mustang and the Pilatus. Those are gonna have specific part sets on it. The Pilatus is going to have Nitro Chemist with Pure and Frenetic. And then for the P-51 Mustang, you're going to actually have a set of score breaker parts. That's for the aerobatics or acrobatics. I can't remember what it's called. The Feat for the P-51 Mustang. It's the fastest plane. And with score breaker, you get a nice full score for that one. All right, the keys to this summit is definitely the part sets. If you don't have part sets for helicopters or planes, you're definitely going to be at a disadvantage. Nitro Chemist alone on the planes and the helicopter is just something that needs to happen for this summit, as well as score breaker for the Feats. It's just super important. I have a guide that I'll link in the description down below for both the regular parts for planes and then a grind method for the helicopters if you really just want to grind out those parts and get as many golds as possible. But I strongly suggest doing that if this summit means anything to you. There is an exclusive plane up for grabs, so if you're into collecting, now's the time to do it. Anyways, I don't have any pro settings for any of the planes because I just don't tune them. We don't use them enough, and it's just not something that I go for. So I don't have any pro settings for you, but I do have very good scores with the default pro settings, and I don't think it really matters too much. So anyways, let's get into the events. All right, the first event is called Flying Bull, and this is with that loaned SC-330 plane. The key to this is NOS management and cutting these checkpoints very short. So basically you want to let your NOS go all the way up or almost all the way up before you actually use it. I did a little bit of burst there and I shouldn't have. I should be letting it go all the way up, and you want to get at least into the blue. I mean, I'm not even following my own advice, but at this point you got to get into the blue and start using your NOS. You want to just use little taps. You want to get that NOS as full as possible. Use little taps. Notice I'm cutting these checkpoints super hard. You can actually run into this. You don't get any slowdown for hitting these. It may look like it, but you're not actually getting it. You just have to get close. You don't actually have to go through it, but you got to get close to them enough to, you know, actually get the checkpoint. So that's really it. Notice that this checkpoint is on the left side, so I'm going to the left of this checkpoint. You got another one on the left side, so I'm going to the left of this checkpoint. Now, this I think keeps, yeah, this one keeps going, but notice how I'm cutting across. Now watch, I'll go switch it back, go to the right, because the next checkpoint is on the right. So just take the shortest path possible and you'll be fine. All right, let's move on. All right, the next event is called Maximum Altitude, and this is with the helicopter. I recommend using the Chase Edition. I think it's a little bit faster. I believe the world record is done in this one as well. But basically, what you're trying to do is go as fast as possible and still get the angle for all the gates. I actually did not get the angle for all the gates because it is quite hard to handle these helicopters. But a little tip that came to me from Oz. Oz is one of the best planes and helicopter flyers out there. He definitely gave me sort of the tip of the century. So basically, if you hold X on Xbox controller or square on a PlayStation controller, you'll be able to move the helicopter more. You can rotate it more than what its normal angles are. And that includes going forward. So in order to get the helicopter going forward, you actually need to hold the X or the square button, tilt the helicopter forward. And then once it's at a really sharp angle, then you use your trigger to gas it up. So at the beginning, this is really important. Hold the X square button. Notice that I'm trying to get the helicopter to lean a lot. So look how far it's leaning. Then I'm holding the trigger. I'm going 180 miles an hour here at the start. That's not normal. Also, you're trying to let your NOS build up a little bit here. Anytime you're on the straights, you have to be holding that X or square button to make this helicopter dip forward. It's also a way that you can reduce your altitude as well. So trying to reduce the altitude while, you know, going forward is definitely important. Aside from that, I really don't have any tips for you, man. This is a very difficult event and a very difficult vehicle to fly, and I really just don't have any strong tips for you. If you want to go up, you got to pull back on the helicopter and, you know, point the blades in the direction that you want to go. So like in this case, I'm trying to gain altitude to hit this one. Notice how slow I'm going though. I'm like not even moving forward barely. I just want to get that checkpoint, and I'm trying to get as many perfects as possible. Now, on this one, Nitro Chemist definitely helps a lot. the boost is a lot stronger with pure. So if you don't have nitrochemist, but you do have pure, that's going to help you a lot as well. That's kind of it, man. It's a tough one. Good luck. All right, the next event is called Helicopt'air Race, and this one is the same helicopter. You're going to be putting the advice I gave you in the first event and the advice I gave you in the second event together. You're going to be cutting these checkpoints as much as possible. You're going to be leaning the helicopter forward as much as possible, and that includes at the start. Let off the gas a little bit, get the helicopter on a nice angle, and then cut these checkpoints on every single corner. You can actually go outside of them on a couple as well. I'm just gonna like let this full lap play out because it's important that you see the angles of all of this. So look at, I'm cutting these as much as possible. I'm staying to the inside. You want to minimize the distance that you're traveling in this helicopter because it is fairly slow. You also want to be taking advantage of your NOS as much as possible. The NOS will push you in the direction the helicopter is facing. Now this is a big straight here. You need to gain a lot of speed here. Use a lot of NOS if you can. Keep that helicopter pointed forward and just keep going as fast as you possibly can with that NOS. Now watch this part. I cut pretty tight. Stay tight to these pylons. You can go inside this one if you have to, or excuse me, outside this one. And again, here you want to stay outside. And then you can cut this one as well. And get back to the loop. So there you go. That's the lap. I hope you guys have, you know, good success with this, but holding X or square, keeping that nose pointed down, it's going to help you. All right, let's move on. All right, the next event is called Patrouille De Hawaii. I'm not really sure if I actually said that correctly. Anyways, this is using the brand new Red Bull Jet. And one of the things I noticed with the Jet is that it doesn't really lose a lot of speed when you use the bumpers to turn. So when you turn on the bumpers, it loses a little, but not a lot. Not a lot. It loses more when you sharply turn and you tilt the plane. So if you tilt it like this, look how much more I lost. I went from right here, I'm doing almost 300, and then I tilt the plane, immediately lose almost 40 miles per hour just by tilting the plane. Now obviously it's a sharper turn, so you're going to lose a lot of speed anyways, but when you tilt, it seems like you lose more speed because you have to do a sharper turn. If you can make this turn by just using the bumpers, it's a little bit smoother of a turn and it's a little bit less harmful to your speed. So anyways, let's move on a little bit here. See, I'm turning a lot with the bumpers. I'm also using little bits of NOS at the same time. Little bits of NOS at a time, excuse me. Trying to keep it at or close to 300. When you start to descend, you can really get some speed. As soon as I tilt it, man, that's when you start to lose a little speed. Part of it is because the plane is very twitchy. The jet is twitchy, and so it just takes some getting used to. But yeah, I also, the camera view that I'm on right now is actually the second camera. It's not the primary camera, and I think it makes it a little easier to fly, just me personally. Anyways, that's it. Let's move on. All right, the next event is called Barnstorming, and this one is using the Waco airplane. This one is basically the same advice as last time. You want to try to cut the minimum distance between each of these checkpoints. You don't want to be just like dead center in it. I know I'm not really showing the best example of this right now, but I think this clip I was just kind of getting used to the plane. You can actually go through these pylons just like you did on the other ones, and I didn't realize that until about halfway through. And as you can see, I do not have very good control over this plane, and I still got a pretty decent time here. But yeah, parts are going to matter here. Anyways, not really any advice here. Just try to make the shortest path between each of these checkpoints. All right, let's go. All right, the last event is called Queen Bee, and this is with the Granville Brothers GBR1. This plane flies really super weird. It's like a weird, heavy, fat plane. Anyways, you actually can use the tilting the plane to control it. I'd recommend that on this one because the turns are mostly tight, but this actually doesn't lose that much speed when you do it, so I strongly recommend that. There is one spot up here on the top of this hill that I like to just flip the plane over because it seems to get better speed that way. You're already turned this way, you can just flip it all the way over and it reverses the direction of the turn pretty easily. I like to do that. It's up to you if you want to follow that or not, but that's the best way to do it. And then again here with the U-turn, you got to flip it on its side and pull it over to make that U-turn. So there you go. That's basically the whole lap. There's only a couple of turns here left and you're good to go. You can use a lot more NOS than I'm using here. I'm just trying to be careful that I don't miss any checkpoints because I don't really want to make any mistakes. As you can see, I'm kind of messing around, flying upside down and stuff. It's yeah, just go through the gates and use your NOS. All right, let's move on. All right, I'll let my feats play out so you can see exactly what I did, but I do have a suggestion on the escape. You're going to be going in the opposite direction, and to get any distance on your escape, you have to be close to the ground. And so yeah, just follow my path, be close to the ground, you'll get a nice score. All right, here are my final scores. DM me with any questions you might have on Instagram or Discord. I read every single message that comes my way, and that's a legit offer. If you have questions or you need help with the game, I do respond to DMs, so send it over and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, thanks for watching. I hope this helps, and I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.